Near the end of her life, actress Teri Garr sat down for what seemed like a simple conversation. At the time, it felt like just another interview in a long career filled with appearances, press events, and personal reflections. Yet when people look back at that moment today, the tone feels very different. The words she shared, the pauses between her sentences, and the way she spoke about her life now feel deeply emotional and even haunting. She was not simply remembering old films or laughing about funny stories from Hollywood. Instead, she spoke openly about the struggles she had carried for many years. Behind the success, the humor, and the bright personality that audiences loved was a life shaped by private challenges, health battles, and the constant pressure of the entertainment industry. Listening again to those final reflections reveals a woman who understood that her life story was far more complex than what the public had seen on movie screens. Her calm honesty created a moment that now feels powerful and chilling at the same time. It was as if she was quietly summing up the long journey that had taken her from a hopeful young performer in Los Angeles to one of the most memorable actresses of her generation. To understand why her final words carried so much weight, it helps to go back to the beginning of her story. Teri Garr was born on December 11, 1944, in Los Angeles. Her life began in a home where creativity was a normal part of everyday life. Her father, Eddie Garr, worked as a vaudeville entertainer and actor who performed on stage and in theater productions. Her mother, Phyllis Lind, was also deeply involved in the world of performance. She worked as a dancer, model, and wardrobe assistant in the entertainment industry. Growing up in such a household meant that the arts were always present. Music, dance, costumes, and rehearsals were not unusual sights in her childhood. For many people, this kind of upbringing would seem like the perfect path into Hollywood. However, life soon proved that things would not be as simple or glamorous as they appeared. When Garr was only 11 years old, tragedy struck her family. Her father suddenly died from a heart attack. The loss changed everything. The emotional pain was heavy, but the financial impact was also serious. Without the main source of income, the family struggled to stay stable. Garr later spoke about how this moment forced everyone in the household to grow up quickly. Her mother had to work harder than ever, and the children learned that nothing in life would be handed to them easily. During those difficult years, dance became an important escape for young Teri Garr. Movement helped her forget the stress and sadness she sometimes felt. She threw herself into dance lessons with incredible dedication. Even when money was tight, she found ways to continue learning. Sometimes that meant earning scholarships. Other times it meant doing small jobs around studios just to pay for classes. She often traveled long distances across Los Angeles by bus so she could study with the best teachers she could find. These were not easy lessons. Ballet training required strict discipline, long hours, and constant practice. Garr pushed herself very hard. Some days she spent 3 or 4 hours repeating the same movements again and again until they were perfect. The physical toll was intense. She later admitted that her feet sometimes bled after long practice sessions. But she kept going because she believed that hard work was the only way forward. That determination became a defining part of her personality. By the time she reached her final year of high school, Garr knew she wanted to be part of the professional entertainment world. She began auditioning for roles, hoping for any opportunity that might open a door. One of her earliest big chances came when she auditioned for a stage production connected to the famous musical West Side Story. The experience did not start well. At her first audition, she was rejected almost immediately. Many young performers would have walked away feeling defeated, but Garr did something unusual. Instead of leaving, she stayed and watched the other dancers who were called back. She carefully studied what the casting directors seemed to prefer. One small detail caught her attention. None of the dancers who moved forward were smiling during their auditions. Armed with that observation, she decided to try something bold. She returned and auditioned again, believing the judges would not remember her from earlier. This time, she followed the same serious expression she had seen from the others. The strategy worked. She was cast as a member of the ensemble known as the Jet Girls. It was a small role, but it proved something important. Garr learned that paying attention, adapting quickly, and refusing to give up could change the outcome of a situation. This lesson would guide her throughout the rest of her career. After finishing high school, Teri Garr briefly attended college at San Fernando Valley State College, now known as California State University, Northridge. However, the pull of performing remained too strong. After 2 years, she decided to leave school and fully commit to acting and dancing. She moved to New York City, where she trained seriously at the famous Actors Studio and the Lee Strasberg Theater and Film Institute. These institutions were known for shaping some of the greatest actors of the 20th century. The training focused on emotional honesty and deep character study. Garr absorbed everything she could from the experience. Even with this training, success did not arrive quickly. Like many young actors, she took small jobs wherever she could find them. Some roles were uncredited background appearances in movies and television shows. She also worked as a dancer in several films starring Elvis Presley. In many of those scenes, audiences barely noticed her presence. Yet each small appearance helped her build experience and connections in the industry. Her breakthrough finally arrived in 1974 with the comedy classic Young Frankenstein, directed by Mel Brooks. Garr played the cheerful and quirky lab assistant Inga. The role allowed her natural comedic timing to shine. Her performance became one of the most memorable parts of the film. Audiences loved her charm, humor, and expressive reactions. Suddenly, the actress who had once stood silently in the background of musical films was receiving widespread attention. She proved that she could handle comedy with skill and originality. Soon after, she demonstrated her dramatic abilities in the film Close Encounters of the Third Kind, directed by Steven Spielberg. In that movie, she played the worried wife of a man obsessed with mysterious alien encounters. Her emotional performance grounded the story in reality, reminding audiences that extraordinary events can deeply affect ordinary families. A few years later, she earned an Academy Award nomination for her role in Tootsie alongside Dustin Hoffman. These achievements confirmed her place among the most respected actresses of her era. However, behind the scenes, life was becoming increasingly complicated. For many years, Teri Garr had been quietly dealing with unexplained physical symptoms. She sometimes tripped while jogging or felt strange tingling in her arms. At first, the symptoms appeared and disappeared without warning. Doctors struggled to explain what was happening. Eventually, she learned that she was living with multiple sclerosis, a condition that affects the central nervous system. The disease can interfere with communication between the brain and the body, causing weakness, balance problems, and other physical difficulties. Garr kept this diagnosis private for many years, while continuing to work in film and television. When she finally revealed the truth publicly in 2002, many fans were shocked. Yet she chose to speak openly because she wanted to raise awareness and help others facing the same illness. Years later, when she sat down for that final interview, the experiences of her entire life seemed to come together in her words. Teri Garr spoke honestly about the challenges she had faced, the lessons she had learned, and the importance of resilience. Her reflections carried a quiet strength. Rather than focusing on fame or awards, she talked about perseverance, humor, and the support of family and friends. Listening to that conversation now, many people feel a sense of deep respect for the courage she showed both on screen and in her personal life. The interview no longer sounds like a simple conversation. Instead, it feels like the closing chapter of a remarkable story, the voice of a woman who faced adversity with honesty, humor, and determination until the very end. As the career of Teri Garr continued to grow during the late 1970s and early 1980s, she became known as one of Hollywood's most unique and reliable performers. She was not the typical leading lady often seen in major films of that era. Instead of playing glamorous or overly dramatic characters, Garr built a reputation for portraying real, relatable women who felt natural and believable. Her comedic timing was sharp, and her ability to react in humorous ways made her performances stand out. Directors quickly realized that she could bring warmth and humor to almost any scene. At the same time, audiences appreciated that her characters often seemed like ordinary people dealing with unusual situations. This quality made her performances memorable and helped her stand apart from many other actresses working at the time. Hollywood was full of talented performers, but Garr had a style that felt genuine and spontaneous. She often said that she preferred roles where she could show a character's personality rather than simply look glamorous on screen. This attitude helped shape the types of projects she accepted and the reputation she developed within the film industry. As a result, she worked with some of the most respected filmmakers and actors of her generation while still maintaining her own distinct voice point. One of the most important moments in Garr's career came when she appeared in the groundbreaking science fiction film Close Encounters of the Third Kind, directed by Steven Spielberg. In the movie, she played Ronnie Neary, the wife of a man who becomes obsessed with mysterious sightings of unidentified flying objects. That man was portrayed by Richard Dreyfuss. While the film focused heavily on the wonder and mystery of alien contact, Garr's role served a very important emotional purpose. Her character represented the confusion and fear experienced by families when a loved one becomes consumed by something they cannot fully understand. As Dreyfuss's character grows increasingly obsessed with strange visions and unexplained experiences, Ronnie struggles to hold her family together. Garr's performance captured the frustration, worry, and exhaustion that such a situation would cause. Many viewers later said that her performance made the story feel more realistic. Even though the film dealt with extraordinary events involving extraterrestrials, the emotional reactions within the family felt authentic. This balance between the fantastic and the personal helped make the film one of the most influential science fiction movies ever created. A few years later, Garr would achieve another major milestone when she appeared in the comedy Tootsie. The film starred Dustin Hoffman as a struggling actor who disguises himself as a woman in order to find work on a television soap opera. Garr played Sandy Lester, a fellow actor who is insecure, hopeful, and constantly trying to succeed in a difficult industry. Her character was funny, vulnerable, and very relatable to anyone who had ever chased a dream in a competitive environment. Garr's performance added emotional depth to the film's comedy. She portrayed Sandy as someone who desperately wanted recognition and stability, yet continued facing disappointment. Critics praised Garr for bringing warmth and honesty to the role. Her work in the film earned her a nomination for the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. Although she did not win the award, the nomination confirmed her status as one of the most talented character actresses working in Hollywood. It also introduced her to an even larger audience around the world. The success of Tootsie proved that Garr could hold her own alongside some of the biggest stars in the industry. While her film career was thriving, Teri Garr was also becoming a popular guest on television talk shows. One of the places where her personality truly shined was on Late Night with David Letterman, hosted by David Letterman. Garr appeared on the program several times and quickly became one of the host's favorite guests. Their conversations were often playful and unpredictable. Garr had a natural ability to laugh at herself and share funny stories from her life in Hollywood. Audiences loved watching the friendly chemistry between the actress and the host. Letterman frequently joked with her, sometimes teasing her about small details from her stories or playful misunderstandings during the interview. Garr handled these moments with humor and quick wit. One of the most famous stories connected to her appearances involved a humorous conversation about showering habits. The discussion was lighthearted, but it showed how comfortable she felt speaking openly on television. These appearances helped build her reputation as someone who is not only talented, but also approachable and funny. Many viewers felt as if they were watching a conversation between friends rather than a formal interview. Despite the success she enjoyed in both film and television, life in Hollywood was never completely easy. Like many performers, Garr faced periods where work became less frequent. The film industry constantly changes, and roles that were once plentiful can suddenly become rare. Actresses, in particular, often face challenges as they grow older because many scripts focus on younger characters. Garr spoke openly about this issue in several interviews. She explained that while she loved acting, she sometimes found it frustrating that interesting roles for women became harder to find with age. Even so, she continued searching for projects that allowed her to use her skills and creativity. During these years, she appeared in a variety of television shows, independent films, and stage productions. Each project allowed her to explore different characters and keep her passion for performing alive. She also began writing and speaking more openly about her personal experiences, sharing both the joys and the struggles that came with a life in entertainment. At the same time, Teri Garr was quietly dealing with a health challenge that few people around her fully understood. For many years, she had experienced unusual physical symptoms that appeared without warning. Sometimes she would lose her balance while walking or jogging. Other times, she felt sudden weakness in her limbs. Because these symptoms came and went, doctors initially had difficulty identifying the cause. Eventually, she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. The condition affects the central nervous system and can cause a wide range of physical difficulties. For someone whose career depended on physical expression and movement, the diagnosis was frightening. Garr worried that the public might see her differently if they knew about the illness. For a long time, she chose to keep the information private. She continued working, attending events, and appearing cheerful in public while managing the disease behind the scenes. This decision required great strength and determination. When Garr eventually decided to speak publicly about her diagnosis in 2002, the response from fans and colleagues was overwhelmingly supportive. By sharing her story, she helped raise awareness about multiple sclerosis and encouraged many others facing the same illness. She became involved with organizations that supported medical research and patient assistance programs. Through public appearances and interviews, she explained the challenges of living with the disease while still trying to maintain a positive outlook on life. Her honesty inspired many people who were struggling with their own health problems. Garr showed that even someone who had spent decades in the spotlight could face uncertainty and fear just like anyone else. This openness added another dimension to her public image. She was no longer seen only as a talented comedic actress, but also as a strong advocate for people living with chronic illness. As time passed, her willingness to share her experiences became one of the most meaningful parts of her legacy. As the years passed, Teri Garr gradually stepped away from the fast pace of Hollywood, but she never completely disappeared from public life. Instead, she entered a quieter phase where reflection became more important than fame. She had already spent decades working in one of the most demanding industries in the world. By that point, she had appeared in dozens of films and television shows, worked with some of the most respected directors in cinema, and built a reputation for being both talented and honest in her performances. Yet behind that long list of achievements was a woman who had endured a lifetime of challenges that many fans never knew about. Her battle with multiple sclerosis continued to affect her daily life. The disease sometimes made movement difficult and caused periods of exhaustion that were impossible to ignore.